this video, we compiled 1 hour of platformer lore using our videos from the last year, which also includes completions from Zoink, Whizkid, and EVW. Also, in the background is me beating the top 1 delightful climb.
Voplat has beaten Pandora, a space-themed level that focuses on precision, combined with dash orb wall jumps and leaps of faith. With this top 10 completion accepted on the platformer list, Voplat has dethroned Ibio, who has been at the top of the platformer list rankings for several months. Ibio completes dashing over it blindfolded. Throughout the run, you'll find him using normalized setups in which he runs into a wall, combined with the sound effects to locate where he is. The landing sound effect is especially useful, as he measures the time between each effect to determine if you made a jump or not. Cuckoo has become the second victor of the current top 1. In comparison to the previous top 1, Convolution, Delightful Climb is slightly longer and has more difficult jumps due to the spike's fixed hitboxes. There's also several nasty turnarounds where you have to either squeeze between 2 horizontal spikes or time it to land inside of a 2 mini-block vertical gap without slipping off. And that fails to mention that the whole level's on a time limit. Merce, a phenomenal-looking speedrun position level, was recently rated. It starts out with you flying through the purple neon sky, followed by some satisfying dash orb gameplay with the Cuban UFO. After descending the mountains, you have to zoom through the city skylines before the 60-second time limit runs out. Dashing, the #1 moon grinder becomes the first player to beat 100 rated extremes with his completion of Guidance, a level where you travel through the city in the dead of night, pun unintended. You'll have to rely on faint glimmers of light coming from orbs, a firefly companion, or a swinging pendulum in the background.
That last part was so trash, I'm so sorry.
Meso Hanabi, a fast-paced avoidance where projectiles sync with the music, was recently rated. It features some really creative obstacles, such as a relentless barrage of saws bursting into smaller blades. Later on, the level transforms into a swirling vortex, and it challenges you to navigate through it with infinite jumps. Finally, a stream of confetti-like projectiles erupts in one last stretch of chaos. People really hate Really Fun Baseball, a troll level made by Creator Creepy where the baseball you need to hit not only travels 1,000,000 miles per second, but also constantly twists and turns. Let's look at the comments. Really fun baseball. How about I throw you out of a window, buddy? Frame perfect timing plus ball that doesn't follow the laws of physics equals 2 moon level. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, but this is literally the least fun I've ever had playing a 4 moon platformer. Both Tanuklin and Voplat beat RAGE, the 13th hardest level. It consists of 1 block gaps that on the surface seem easy to cross. However, since these gaps provide no extra leeway, running into a wall just doesn't cut it. Instead, players have to stop midair, then time a corresponding direction press in order to land perfectly inside. In addition, since these jumps start at various distances away from their landing zones, the player has to account for all different fall speeds when adjusting their timing. This level also features many difficult jumps, forcing the player to understand coyote timing, the slight time after you fall off of a block where you can still jump.
Я прошел рейс! Да! Да! Да!
After seeing the slander on Really Fun Baseball, Ibio went on a personal mission and set a record of over 100 points on the level. When asked why he pursued this goal, he responded, "Because I can." Make sure to check out Really Fun Golf by Creator Creepy, what people are calling a massive comeback after their baseball level. In it, you can either putt or full send the UFO either direction with a single or double click respectively. Try scoring below par and mastering the 9 courses filled with sticky walls, launch pads, bouncy walls, and more. The mobile scene has been bursting with activity lately. The 3rd best player, Callouts, beats I'm Happy For You, making it the hardest level ever completed on mobile. A couple days after they picked it back up, Callouts died to the infamous moving spike corridor at the end 3 separate times. The current best player on mobile, Wondered, set arguably another new top 1. What is especially significant about their completion of Glungus is that it's the top 2 rated level, and for the first time in their rivalry, Wondered has pulled significantly ahead of Willy Silly for the title of best mobile player.
Oh my god!
Fluorescence, a level potentially harder than Convolution, was recently verified by Pink Empress. In this doodle art level, you have to collect squiggles while jumping around buzzsaws and inconsistent fixed spike hitboxes to progress. Some especially hard jumps are this precise jump, where after hitting a blue pad, you have to let go of right and repress it at the right time to avoid bonking this wall, this very last second coyote click at the end of checkpoint 2, and this stretch full of uncomfortable spike gaps and ord timings. With Meat Tower being placed 3rd on TPL and this verification soon to follow, Convolution is officially out of the top 5. The biggest mega collab in all of platformer mode was recently verified by Mikoshi. In this level, you travel through 117 rooms that serve as remixes of levels featured on the platformer list at any point in its long history. Each part is made by their original creator, so it gives them a chance to remake their levels with the skills they've learned since releasing them. At the beginning of the level, you can re-experience some OG platformers in new ways, such as I Wanna Be the Guy and Jetpack. Some parts that are especially cool are this precision mixed with avoidance in the Stack 9009 area / not Sunspike, the moving blocks swinging you over huge gaps in Forsaken City, and the fast-paced dash orbs providing high-octane gameplay in Stormfront. Some notably improved parts are dungeon treasures, where all of the blind jumps are gone, instantly throwing you into the final room of 22 Trials of Pain, and removing the headache-inducing motion blur and camera effects of the Tombstone project, all while keeping their original identities intact. Please check out this level to take a trip down memory lane, Kuroku, a Blood Moon-themed demon that may be harder than Null. Throughout the level, you collect stars progress, while strafing around or landing right next to mini-spikes. Some other noticeably hard jumps are this last-second coyote click halfway in, and this green orb timing, where you need momentum from the previous green orb to avoid the upcoming spikes, as stalling won't work due to the highlighted line hitboxes around you. In the mobile world, Real1243 becomes the first victor of Let's All Love Lane, an autoscroller that is top 3 on mobile, due to his lengthy jetpack section and chokeable UFO at the ending.
I beat it! I beat it! I beat it! I beat it! What? How did I save that?
With callouts also beating it the same day, they broke into the top 2 for the first time, surpassing Willy Silly. Woolly Pig's completion of Null Space, a spiritual successor and practically a super buffed version of Null, through its heavy usage of coyote clicks, where you jump shortly after running off a block, fast mid-air turnarounds, where you briefly let go of all keys before swapping directions, and orbs requiring momentum to squeeze through insanely tight gaps. And of course, it didn't forget the token item you collect, in this case a clock, to progress through the level. Halfway through the level is what is known as the Ayumi jump, the hardest click in the level, where mid-air, Woolly Pig had to hold forward below the sideways spike, let go, and after passing it, re-grab right quickly enough to land safely. But that's not all. At the very end of the level, Woolly Pig had to gain momentum by rebounding on a pink orb, execute a fast turnaround, and depending on where and when the turnaround occurred, adjust his timing for the blue orb. Another standout new level is My Friend's Dog, created by veteran 2.2 GDPS creator Drac. This level is a short auto-scroller which utilizes a song by one of Drac's favorite artists, Aaron's Book Club. The level switches between these bright parts with various game modes and abstract background, and these dark cube parts where this super tight jump is common. This jetpack part is a standout, as hitting this orb and perfectly swooping back up is very satisfying. This level is projected to place pretty low on the platform list, so go give it a shot. Convolution has finally been dethroned by Diamonds for Dashers as the new #1 hardest rated platformer demon. Diamonds for Dashers is an incredibly unique level, featuring multiple types of gameplay, such as the super difficult chain of dash orb momentum jumps, and simpler stuff like this tight needle section. After surviving through 15 seconds of these blue pads, you encounter the most brutal part of all, the ending, where you have to do this super precise orb clicks and finish it off by hitting that dash orb. And that's not even to mention the fact that you have to do it all without dying. This was verified by NNG12 and only has one victor so far, being G-Toast. But now that it's rated, a new difficulty era will finally begin. Masked Beat Measurement, which features a very special guest during the reaction. Styrofoam Cat, a speedrun level with a gorgeous Vaporwave aesthetic. This level was created after Procurator saw and thought to themselves, I want this, but ball. Although the level's timer is more lenient compared to it essentially forces you to avoid stopping at any point. In addition, every pad in Procurator's own words is designed to be absolutely brutal and soul-crushing. This level is currently top 50 on the platformer list, so go give it a try. Over the course of 8 months, the army ants both built and verified Mount Uber. In this level, as you're ascending to the top, you navigate mountain cave passages where the difficulty noticeably increases. In one of these sections, there's an especially brutal fall, which requires a triple mid-air turnaround over halfway in the level. This is a 5-minute long challenge. Be sure to check out this brand new epic rated Extreme Demon Summer. It's a super fast-paced auto-scroller focused on momentum-based click-sync gameplay, featuring stunning visuals and an absolutely incredible song. Samamba's climb on Meat Tower, becoming first victor and securing a spot back in the top 5. Make sure to check out Mind Block, where you play as deformed Tetris pieces and used internal block structuring such as ledge overhangs to solve unique puzzle levels. Later on, there's some tricky rooms where you control 2 pieces at once. After you correctly lock all the puzzle pieces in place, there's an optional challenge to collect 10 coins using any wacky shapes you get to build.
Like, what's the easiest game to do IRL? Baba Is You. I don't know, I feel like that'd be a really experience. I don't want to know what, like, being the wall is like.
One of the oldest unverified platformer levels, Magadan Grotto X, was just claimed by Mikoshi. In it, you travel through pitch-black catacombs until encountering a clubstep monster. The last jump here, according to Mikoshi, feels like borderline RNG. After descending through the caves with some standard cube gameplay, you're met face-to-face with one of the most brutal ball skill checks in platformer mode. The end of this checkpoint is especially brutal, as a running start is needed to slip through both the ceiling spike and the subsequent tall one. This is then followed up by a chain of one-time use blue orbs. However, the hardest checkpoint by far is the factory. After some relatively easy gameplay, there's a set of 3 dash orbs, each propelling you at different speeds. Further down, you'll encounter a set of 8 blue orbs that test your ability to maintain a tight, consistent rhythm. Even further down is some really disorienting robot gameplay, as the screen starts rotating side to side. The dropper at the end of the factory heavily exploits the strange turnaround physics of this game. Even after all this brutal gameplay, you'll have to avoid cracking under all the mental pressure and dying to triple spikes. And to finish the level out, there's one final turnaround followed by 2 super tight orb clicks. Dedramino, a fast-paced memory avoidance level where you have to dodge Tetris gameplay by both remembering how much space the pieces take up and anticipating line clears. Halfway through the level, Tetraminos start falling into a recycle bin where they're subsequently deleted, adding another element to memorize. Masked does a solo completion of Entanglement, a rather unique minigame level. In it, you need to control 2 snake games at the same time, where each snake needs to eat its respective orb. Woolly Pig's clear of Diamonds for Dashers after 55,000 attempts, where he fluked the entire ending section, which most consider to be the hardest part of the level. Another standout level, which was beaten by Wolgisu this week, was Rabbit Hole by Zuyuko. This fast-paced autoscroller was initially verified and rebalanced by Shroomy. Starting off, you maneuver around a deck of cards bobbing up and down. After a short ball section, the level ramps up in both difficulty and speed, as the spider and ball sections contain corridors, where you alternate between slightly slowing down and maintaining a consistent click rhythm. The hardest part, however, is this 10-second segment that swaps quickly between the jetpack and the cube 4 separate times as you navigate through tight straight flies and vertical spike gaps, while preserving the right amount of momentum before the next swap. The level closes out with a very chokeable mini robot section, where you swerve around spikes and a bunch of deadly donuts. Dashing is verified Vortex, a level harder than Null. Just like the level it surpassed, you have to collect the token item, in this case Vortexes, to progress, while you squeeze your way in between sideways spikes. Unlike Null, however, this level is a vertical climb, and said squeezes are somewhat mitigated by using a double jump to adjust your momentum mid-air. This ability then becomes a double-edged sword in the second half, with areas such as this one, where after wrapping around and through some uncomfortably close spikes, you'll have to double jump while falling instead of ascending, the former giving you less frames to work with. Near the end of the level, there's a slanted passage, where after another turnaround, the subsequent double jump requires a tight release timing. Arguably the hardest part is 92%, requiring 2 finicky turnarounds mid-double jump. When asked why Dashing verified this level, this was their response. Super buffed boss fight of the kid from I Wanna Be the Guy. Compared to the regular version, you'll have to evade 3 Mega Shurikens from the ceiling instead of 1. The kid both fires and moves faster. The cloud that he shoots into now sprays bullets diagonally, the boss has more health, and these cherries home onto you 2 times instead of once. Huge hats off to Daxi for completing this current top 1 boss in the midst of the entire Dead of Night Gauntlet. With I Want a Platformer list placed at number 10, long-term veterans Shroomy and Jungle Wolf claim a spot within the top 10, surpassing both Voplat and ending Ibio's jaw-dropping 17.5-month streak within the top 10. Ibio, however, is one of the best players of all time for a reason. Within the very next day, he conquers Delightful Climb, the top 1 platformer. Overall, he had 6 deaths to 95%, the infamous turnaround at the end of the level, and 2 more further past it. For those who remember, previously, the mod Ibio was using decided to hold down keys for him, meaning this very well could be the sole reason he ever dropped out of the top 10. MacLoris claims first victor of Dish Rags, the hardest autoscroller, filled to the brim with multiple orb and portal sequences by Maddie. Aside from the obvious execution required, any slowdown or hesitation can leave you off-screen where you're as good as dead. This is especially true at the drop at 40%, where you have to adjust to the faster speed and shortly after fly through a gnarly passageway where each spike is slightly above the last. Later on, as the Jetpack at 65%, after timing the various orbs correctly, you'll switch gears and weave through a staggered spike corridor. The hardest part, however, is this 95% UFO, where you have to narrowly avoid these spike shuriken hitboxes 6 times in a row. What makes this level even more interesting is that observant viewers may have spotted, it features every game mode except for Robot. We Forgot Everything by Hate Tag, an autoscroller set in the apocalypse. The level starts out difficult, with some ball and gravity portal loop-to-loop shenanigans. Shortly after is a difficult robot jump, where you basically graze this saw blade. Later on is one of the coolest parts of the level, where you speedrun to the next dash orb before the autoscroller lunges to the next part. One fairly tricky part is this yellow orb, where as the spider you have to hit it low enough and then turn around fast enough to avoid an early demise. However, the level stays relentless in its final stretch, requiring even more precision than before. And Superkobster becoming the first victor of I'm Happy For Us, spelled with a U, which is practically a deathless version of I'm Happy For You, spelled with Y-O-U. After their clear of fluorescence, Jitos becomes the first person ever with a perfect score on platformer rank, meaning they've conquered the top 10 hardest challenges, including those beyond the platformer list, such as a bit deathless. Sanuklin beat both top 1 level Delightful Climb and top 2 level Diamonds for Dashers on back-to-back days, reclaiming the number 2 spot. Ken Allen, somebody who is essentially a complete unknown in the community until now, instead of Daxi, was the first victor of Dead of Night True Ending. where one of the secrets quizzed you on your knowledge about the previous parts of the Mega Collab. Fulmination, an adrenaline-inducing speedrun extreme, was recently rated. Starting off, the first quarter is arguably the hardest part of the level. In addition to zooming through, your turnarounds have to be quick and on point. After that is a tough jetpack due to the plethora of straight flies, where you repeatedly adjust your height midway through. However, that is nothing in comparison to this insane swoop, requiring both a finicky black orb click on the way in and a few precise button releases on the way out. Later on, you'll finally escape the wall of darkness as the cube, before another tight jetpack section. And even though the robot appears for less than 7 seconds total, the last jump of this entire deathless challenge requires a 2-frame timing. Ray 131 has become the first mobile victor of Ambidexter, a 2-player extreme demon. What makes this all the more impressive is that each room is on a strict time limit. Ray uses a strategy where he uses his index fingers to control the top half, and his thumbs to control the bottom half. He even changes his control scheme in room 9, so that the buttons are positioned in a way his left hand can hit both the bottom player right and jump keys. Both of his hands changing their rhythm as they tap the iPad is truly mesmerizing to watch here. After switching back to his initial controls for another 4 rooms, he switches to yet another control scheme, where the bottom movement buttons are shifted a bit further right. It's absolutely insane that he wasn't heavily thrown off by either the 2 halves auto-scrolling in completely opposite directions or a third set of controls. Plastic Flowers by Procurator is a visually stunning level, decorated with neon lights. It features a gimmick where some platforms start falling upon landing on them, leading to some fun gameplay, such as outrunning this bridge collapse. However, the jump right after is the hardest one in the level by far, as you need to both maintain full momentum and barely squeeze this set of mini spikes to progress. In fact, the rest of the level is essentially free compared to this jump. Quarion, one of the first mythic levels by the Joint, was released as a game on Steam. For only $1 on Steam, you can get a more fleshed out version of the level that also adds a map expansion, brand new abilities, and a never before seen space wizard fight. Geometry Quest 2 by My Name is Green was recently released. In the Geometry Quest series, you cast spells through an RPG-style menu to take down each boss. However, during your opponent's turn, you're back in platforming mode, where you can weave all around the upcoming attacks. Aside from 20 plus new bosses, the sequel now ranks your combat performance. The higher your rank, the more rewards you will earn. The sequel also comes with a mini-map to teleport to previously explored areas, puzzles scattered across the map that unlock character upgrades, and pure platforming tucking away more secrets. This level looks absolutely fantastic and will take multiple hours to complete on a first go. The Towerverse 2 by 16 Lord was recently released and rated Mythic. This level is a sequel to the original Towerverse, the first Mythic level in all of Geometry Dash. However, many players were upset that the rating was more based off the story and aesthetics rather than the gameplay. People particularly had issues with the propeller section's difficulty spike at the end of the level. However, 16 Lord shut down all your doubts about his ability as a creator with the Towerverse 2, a level where you travel across 3 different realities, including the Super Mario Bros. Timeline. This level greatly improves on the original by making it now worth it to go out of your way to find treasure chests and collect coins scattered across the map to spend on health potions and weapons, each equipped with their own super attack. Before each boss, you can switch weapons to prioritize range, damage, aerial mobility, and special abilities such as possible damage ignore and lifesteal. In addition, there's now a central hub where there's both a training room to try out your new moves and a few side quests that don't overstay their welcome. After tracking down all the star keys, you'll then take on Marks from Kirby, the God of Darkness, to restore the timeline. So try out this level, uncover the secrets of time, while 16 Lord and RobTop try their best to avoid getting sued by Nintendo. Scarlet Central is finally released. This is a super intense speedrun level featuring lots of flashy effects and enjoyable gameplay. It begins in this maze-like section where you have to activate switches to progress. After going down this elevator, it begins to grow in intensity, and the level turns a bit more vertical after these randomized switches. After going up this elevator, the level starts to flash and fall apart as you run through it before suddenly it drops. With an explosion, you're sent flying to the right and have to avoid your narrow death through a giant flaming wall. After breaking out of that section, you're faced with another section with the entire level breaking and falling apart, featuring extremely vibrant, flashy visuals. Then, to finish it off, you descend through this tight drop-down while the music goes at full force, and you have to spam to complete your landing. Overall, this level is an absolute spectacle from start to finish, so a huge congrats to Siphon for finishing it. Woolly Pig claims a spot within the top 10 for the first time after clearing Meat Tower. Surprisingly, according to them, the 240Hz frame perfect UFO click wasn't that big of a deal. Instead, they struggled on this sequence, where you perform a coyote jump, and under a strict time limit, buffer your next 2 jumps around this tooth. They also struggled with this upcoming jump, where you have to precisely angle your fall to activate the mini portal, instead of landing inside some spikes. The last jump Woolly Pig noticeably struggled with is this one, where they had to squeeze between a pair of teeth while strafing around this one-time used blue portal. Ocean Commotion, where you'll have to take shelter before waves of tsunami wash you away. You'll have to do this while also dodging moving saws and bullets that fire from time to time. Crow does a great job mixing up these obstacles in a variety of ways, so go check this level out. Eric Van Wilderman beat Jetpack Trials, a 50-stage gauntlet based on the world's hardest game, which tests all of your flying skills from precision to memorizing an extremely long path in this maze to your speedrunning skills. However, the hardest room by far is the infamous Room 43. This room is exceptionally difficult, as EVW had to precisely maneuver the jetpack to avoid accelerating headfirst into the 3 horizontal diagonals near the start and end of the level. And even after all of that, this room ends with 2 extremely tight straight flies.
Oh my god, I did it! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, yeah, I just had to make sure I was recording.
Crime and Punishment by Kokir's team, which is verified by one of its members, Cybercube. The level starts out with what Victor's NNG, McLauris, and TNT King agree is the most brutal part of the level. This comes down to the high amount of spam and the plethora of fast turnarounds while the screen is rapidly swapping to neighboring screens. This dash orb section at full speed is straight up merciless. The difficulty begins to cool down in this part, where it introduces slope boosting and starts hurling projectiles towards you at 1,000 miles per hour. However, it's straight back to brutal gameplay in this next part, as it's full of awkward clicks, including this at minimum quadruple blue orb click, which is shortly followed up by this spider spam staircase. The intensity doesn't stop there though, as you'll fly through a factory, while hurricane force winds periodically slam you backwards in this jetpack part. After a relatively tame dash orb section, you'll find yourself in this checkerboard part, which is also fraught with awkward jumps, such as this fall that teleports you right into a late dash orb click. Luckily, the second half of the level is noticeably easier, and has more dash orb gameplay, time trials, avoidance, and even a triple spike. But there's just one more twist before you're home free. You'll have to both learn and execute this level's custom wave game mode, which looks super satisfying. Heavenly Echo, a fantastic looking speedrun extreme that was recently rated in the same week. Check out this consistency tracker by Akisakic, link in the description. You can customize any jump you want, such as in-betweens, where the name implies you have to jump in between the middle of 2 regular spikes to avoid your demise. Willy Silly flukes Crime and Punishment from the beginning of the wave at 82%, claiming back the title of the best mobile player for the 7th time. After a staggering 1.5 years, Lapla's world record on the oldest Extreme Demon platformer, the Tower 22, was finally dethroned by Hate Tag by 1/3 of a second. In the first checkpoint, both him and Lapla were neck and neck, but the next checkpoint was different. Hate Tag mashed fast enough to narrowly squeeze between a fireball and an upcoming spike's left side, saving some time compared to Lapla's run, where they went the other way. But it wasn't done just yet. Hate Tag continued nailing the execution through this claustrophobic passageway. Now it was on to the ending, where Hate Tag masterfully nails this orb skip and claims the world record. Check out Death of the Divine boss fight by V Libra. During phase 1, you'll take on a fallen angel who fires bullets, emits lasers, and blasts shockwaves at you, giving you enough time to adjust to the custom dodge and attack mechanics of the level. In the second phase, Acer Grim, yes that is their name, casts spells more frequently and now uses a wider array of attacks. This is a fantastic looking extreme. Artemka verifies Miss You, a visually stunning top 50 level, which uses its aesthetics to seamlessly remove the ground normally found around spikes. The main difficulty of this level comes in its second half, as there's both plenty of narrow gaps between horizontal spikes you can barely fit through, and tight turnarounds, the hardest of which is this double turnaround surrounded by orbs on both sides. Check out Una Casita by Drac, a unique extreme that features a wall cling mechanic that also immediately stops your fall. This, paired with the level's slingshot mechanic, leads to some satisfying gameplay where you swing past spikes. And this level does a great job mixing these movement mechanics with proximity-based shockwaves, so go check out this level today.
The results of the CMG Gravity Level contest have just been released. Taking home the bronze medal is myriad CU with Seafoam Flipocalypse, a level centered around gravity inversion fields that also disable your jump. It starts out showcasing how different orbs interact with the level's main premise. The yellow orb, for example, grants a significant jump boost, while the spider orb skips the inversion field entirely. After the tutorial is a short jetpack section testing how well you adjusted to the new mechanics. Following that is an autoscroller now entirely submerged in an inversion field. Since jumping is disabled, you'll have to now rely on orbs to continue ascending the tower. After a rather intense speedrun section using the spider, the level puts a unique spin on the gimmick. Throughout the Fluffball boss, the rotating inversion fields become a double-edged sword, as they'll both help you make longer jumps and if you're not careful, send you to your demise. Stepping away from contest news for a bit, Artemka has verified the Russian mega collab Light Plastic inspired by heavier metal. Like its inspiration, it features a ton of brutal and cool sections such as this digital void where you have limited vision, this jetpack room where you have to fly past Mickey Mouse, and this slanted straight fly through this clubstep monster. Silver medal in the gravity contest is Styphon with Cascabel. In the first half, your gravity switches every time you jump. However, clicking on an orb has no effect on your gravity, leading to some interesting puzzles where you set your gravity low enough to avoid a head-on collision with some spikes. Before things get stale, Styphon introduces the X block, which evaporates after a click. Instead, you'll have to preload a buffer jump or walk off, which in turn further complicates the puzzles in the level. However, the second half is all about speed, where after hitting a button, the level's gravity is cut in half for 2 seconds. Later on, there's buttons chained together that only work if they're hit in order during those 2 seconds, making for some really fun and engaging gameplay. The Blooming Garden, a 1.5 minute deathless challenge. While this level is full of the standard needle gameplay, he struggled the most with the cube due to the slope boosts, where by moving downhill, jumping and then swapping directions you maintain all your momentum. The first slow boost had a really tight timing due to this spike cluster's fixed hitboxes. After that he had to scale this wall while slope boosting with enough momentum to gain height. The last cube jump was rough, as he had to jump off a precise spot with full speed, meaning he couldn't rely on X coordinates. Even though he died 10 times here, he persevered until completing the level. And claiming first place in the gravity contest is Desmau with Galaxy Renovator. Unlike the other contest levels mentioned, instead of changing the player's gravity, by flipping a lever, certain blocks are now suspended mid-air. Then, you'll use these yellow spheres to activate nearby cameras and their corresponding hidden platforms. After that, you'll navigate a red block through a maze to unlock a door. However, you'll have to move a few blocks out of the way by toggling the gravity lever. Soon after, you'll find a rock slide blocking your way forward. But luckily enough, by making your way to the basement, you'll find a saw blade, where on your way out, you'll quickly learn that the gravity persists between rooms, and that the saw blade's energy is on a time limit, ending the tutorial. This level masterfully introduces all of the core mechanics without saying a single word while making sure not to overwhelm the player. Throughout the rest of this Metroidvania, you'll unlock various mobility upgrades by solving puzzles using the aforementioned mechanics, leading to some interesting sections, such as you affecting 2 red block puzzles at the same time, and suspending conveyor belt blocks mid-air to reach new areas. In addition, if you ever get lost, this level comes equipped with a minimap. Congratulations to Desmau for winning this gravity level contest.
Rev has become the first victor of the second hardest coin, located in Zenith of the Sky, an extreme demon focused on slow boosting, where by moving downhill, jumping, and then turning around, you maintain all your momentum. In stage 1, the Blossom Sky, Rev struggled with his turnaround out of the cave as he had to immediately slow boost away from a spike. However, being the coin grinder he is, Rev unleashed his ultimate strategy of turning Glow off to make the jump easier, and after slow boosting over a chain of spikes, he was off to the Crimson Dusk. This second section added corner landings after slow boosting, the first of which he struggled with as he had to avoid sliding into another spike at the same time. After navigating through a cave overhang where you can sometimes clip through the slope, he was rewarded with a second go at the corner jump. Upon reaching the dark midnight, Rev was immediately slapped in the face with this jump. If he bonked into the top ceiling corner, he'd lose all of his momentum and fall into the spike below. Later on was a steep slope boost as the robot, meaning he had to execute his inputs faster than before while avoiding the ceiling spikes. After more of the standard slope boosting and through the final ascent, Rev had to execute a turnaround spike corner, landing into a slow boost into a steep slow boost. Congratulations to Rev for collecting this coin by beating this entire level deathless. Former top 1 Bramble Scramble just got even more extreme as Sticker Brush Symphony by Mario Kirby, a reimagining of this level, was recently rated. Stingers have been added, bringing more life into the level. And I Own Fish revamped the visuals, which include this gorgeous sunset right after the UFO. In addition, the gameplay is just much more polished overall. In the UFO section, several tight corridors were widened, and the 120 FPS frame perfect was also removed. Several mini-spike corner jumps afterwards were either nerfed through a wider platform or turned into mini-spikes in between, which are less precise. However, Mario Kirby managed to keep the original difficulty intact though by removing a couple of checkpoints, adding gameplay extensions in both the robot and UFO sections, which now has a satisfying red orb ladder. Overall, this is a fantastic remake that managed to keep both the difficulty and identity of the original. The verification race for I Loved You, the top 1 jetpack level between NNG and Ungufo, has come to a close. Ungufo is getting more consistent. In fact, he also got a run to 97 and 99% again the very same day. It was now neck and neck.
Yes!
But ultimately, NNG would pull through and verify the level the very next day. You should check out 3x3 by Test Files. It's a memory-based speedrun level with a unique gimmick where you'll have to speedrun several challenges in a miniature-sized room.
Check out Car Test, where you pilot a functioning car, drive over some hills, and take an elevator as a car. Labyrinth by Tricipital, a roguelite platformer inspired by Spelunky, has caused a debate in the community. As Labyrinth is a roguelite, each attempt, everything from the block layouts to the items you'll get to the various NPCs you meet, are randomized. Throughout it, you'll travel through 4 separate zones, each increasing in difficulty. The catacombs have a bunch of spikes, while the sweltering wastes have numerous thruster flames, lava pits, and conveyor belts. The level really intensifies with the frost freeze mines, as there's now blocks with ice physics, wind boxes pushing you around, and this terrifying thwomp trap that you'll have to dance around. The last part is even more brutal, as there's now several moving platforms that you'll jump onto while dodging an onslaught of lasers and shock orbs. However, each zone has at least one treasure room and shop that gifts various items. I highly recommend stealing an item from the shopkeeper for a surprise. These items can range from a belt that upgrades your movement speed, to a compass that points towards the exit, to boots that disable ice physics. Between each death, you can unlock various NPCs that are complete game changers, as they can grant immunity to lava or unlock a shortcut to the ice zone for all future attempts.
Lava Trials 2 by LikeGG. For those who don't know, the original Lava Trials was a former top 1 of the 2.2 private server, and a level centered around precision needle gameplay. The sequel adds new mechanics such as dash orbs that propel you at 1,000 miles an hour, and beat blocks that make for some unique gameplay such as slope boosting while these spikes switch on and off, and speedrunning through these tight gaps before this bridge deactivates. After traversing through more slope boost and beat block tunnels, you'll literally fling yourself across this lava pit. While the next checkpoint is the easiest part of the level as it has some straightforward spider and jetpack gameplay, this trio of dash orbs is finicky to time, and you'll have to squeeze through a 5 pixel wide spike tunnel. After activating the third checkpoint, you'll slide down this ramp with enough momentum to pole vault over this lava eyeball cyclops. Eventually, you'll reach this bridge that is just straight up brutal, as you not only have to nail your in-betweens and corner jumps, but also time your landings with the level's swapping block mechanic. Upon reaching the last section, the level mixes things up as the lava starts carrying you in this wooden platform upwards, testing how well you react to the upcoming obstacles. After ascending a while, this platform sinks into the lava, forcing you to outrun it before you reduce to ash. This is especially challenging due to this yellow orb's hitbox practically wedged inside this spike wall, and a mini corner spike jump at the tail end of the level. Congratulations to the Army Ants for verifying a level presumably more difficult than null.
iBoney's first platformer level, Tassar, which took over 2,000 hours to make, was recently rated mythic. It's set in the apocalypse, where you embark on a long trek to save the world. However, you'll have to evade various traps, such as blocks that detonate shortly after you land on them, and these fire-breathing monsters. Along the way, you'll encounter a bat companion who is ironically scared of caves. Upon reaching the castle, you'll have to maneuver around various obstacles using rotating platforms, and watch out for spikes that are now popping in and out of the ground. Once you reach the forest, you'll have to look out for these mushrooms that spontaneously combust into toxic spores. You'll then have to play even more carefully, as any misstep in the caves could mean either falling rocks burying you alive, or geysers slamming you face first into the cave roofs. In addition, this level comes equipped with tons of satisfying mechanics, such as water currents that speed up your movement, and launch pads that propel you at high speeds. The level culminates in a grand finale that remixes each major section you've traversed through. Check out this extreme to learn the lore of the mythic demon Tassar, and find out if your bat companion is more than meets the eye. Shroomy breaks into the top 5 for the first time, with a clear of the hardest jetpack level, I Loved You. TNT King's platformer demon All Night was just rated epic. It was made during Geometry Dash All Nighter 2, a charity event where various level creators stay up for 24 hours to make the best levels that they can. The level's first 3 checkpoints slowly ease the player in with the level's double jump, a wall jump that also refreshes your second jump, and orbs that also restore your midair jump. The level's next few checkpoints mix and match these gimmicks, keeping the gameplay fresh before the level throws in one final twist, sideways springs that launch you away from the cliffside to truly test the skills you just learned. Congratulations to TNT King for making a level this good in only 12 hours, both Dashing and Artemka completing the current top 1 delightful climb less than 24 hours apart from each other. In other news, Mikoshi verifies Sedulous, a needle-styled level where you start off with a double jump. You might think this is easier than it looks, but it's actually not, because whenever a spike is at the end of a platform, that end also has an extra invisible corner hitbox. Once you reach the fake checkpoint, the level grants you infinite jumps. However, Mikoshi had to rush all the way back to the start before rising lava incinerated them alive. After doing so, they climbed up and down this relatively straightforward cube tower before completing the level. Congratulations to Mikoshi on verifying a level that's presumably top 5. Check out Tick Tick Boom by GHHH, King Eggplant, and Yesavoy. It features this custom orb where after clicking it, you're suspended in midair. You can then instantly move left, right, or up 2 separate times. On the third click, you'll be propelled the direction of your choosing and subject to the laws of gravity once again. After scaling the mountain for a while, you'll encounter these red blocks that deactivate for a short time, which in turn forces the player to get more comfortable with the custom orb mechanic. This then allows the sky section to add gravity portals, various bounce pads, and teleport portals without overwhelming the player. After reaching the mountain caves, you'll lure the Firebird boss into several explosions. However, this explosion then causes an avalanche, and you'll have to outrun it before being buried alive, serving as a final test on how well you've adapted to the level's gimmick. Danukin becomes the second ever victor of Ruined, a top 5 with a ton of invisible hitboxes. This jump near the start of the level literally turns into a frame perfect due to them. Later on, you'll have to hit this upside down pink pad without bonking on the larger ceiling tile. However, the 2 hardest parts of the level are right back to back at the ending. Starting out, you'll need to B-hop, which is when you buffer your next jump to gain extra height while squeezing through or strafing pixel perfectly around the side of these spikes. Right after, there's essentially a blind drop, where after falling between these spikes, you dodge more invisible hitboxes and aim for the corner of this blue portal before landing safely. Also be sure to check out Drop Near, and getting over at Hard Demon where you use a spear to climb up a mountain. Classic player Zoink has finally gotten a new platformer hardest on Funk Tower by King Eggplant. The gimmick of this level changes every few floors, starting out with some standard precision gameplay. After getting past some slope staircases and a few dash orbs that launch you somewhat quickly, is one of the trickiest parts of the level. You'll have to time your jumps so that these blocks rapidly moving back and forth will launch you over huge gaps. After that, there are some floating crates that you can lower by repeatedly jumping on them, various obstacles that toggle on and off, and another tricky part. Zoink had to account for the wind physics affecting their movement before safely landing on some blocks. After that though, it's smooth sailing, as the low gravity portion is the final and probably easiest part of the level. Cobwebs by Dusty Bud was recently raided. In it, you have to dodge strands of spider silk that are randomly placed. However, every second, another strand is added until you successfully dodge all 100 attacks. This is especially challenging as the verifier TNT King died twice on attack 99 and once on attack 100. Hall of the Hooking by Custy is an extreme where you use hooks to fling yourself all over the place. The start of the level is very intimidating, as the verifier newbie did a loop-de-loop so that he had enough speed to swing around this gap. Then he block boosted, which is a shorthand for jumping off the ground so that the hook releases launch you further distances. After a slight right tap on some ice to build up enough momentum and 2 more hooks, he was finally able to take a breather. Throughout the verification, you'll see that newbie keeps skipping fireplace checkpoints. That's because the matches on the bottom left are actually how many remaining checkpoints that you can activate. He uses his first one right before one of the hardest parts. To clear this choke point, he had to move forward, hook grab while letting go of forward, and in order to build enough upwards momentum, as soon as he collided with this ice slope, he had to hold right for an uncomfortably specific amount of time, all the while making sure to dodge the saws surrounding him. However, the hardest part is this combo chain of 3 hooks, where you first hook yourself into a wall, then launch yourself into a red pad from below, and finally time both a really precise hook grab and hook release. The end of the cube is a really satisfying break in the level's difficulty. It consists of 4 combo hooks where you weave through 5 saws, block boost, and then ice boost yourself twice before landing in the next section. The robot part is overall more of the same gameplay but easier. However, this ending is also satisfying, as if timed correctly, this hook automatically pulls you through this vertical gap before you start holding right. This is then followed up by 2 hook swings around some saws and a hook that drags you 100 miles towards the boss. The Hook King definitely wants you dead, as it aims several swords at you, fires homing missile orbs that you can then reflect back at the boss, and a scythe attack that rapidly spreads out several projectiles. However, after 10 hits, you'll have to now account for the ground splitting apart before finally defeating the boss. Check out the Easy Demon Snowball Checkpoints by Hate Tag. It features a mechanic inspired by I Wanna Be the Boshi, where by firing snowballs across the screen at checkpoints, you can activate them. In addition, your double jump refreshes every time you respawn, making for some super unique gameplay. Ungafo has verified Wrists Untied by Noob, a Jetpack lyric video extreme. The black orbs in the first couple sections are really satisfying, as you can hold up to zoom right past them. However, the hardest section by far is this sunset bit, as it has the tightest gaps, and the mini jetpack is harder to control. The last section you'll have to clutch up as you fly through several gaps while your size and gravity keep on changing. Fuel the Game by Endagger is a unique level where you can't see your player icon at all. However, Let's decided that was too easy of a challenge and beat it blindfolded instead, where he literally could not see anything. Pad Gravity is swag, a deathless jetpack level with double gravity. This gave McLauris trouble in this stretch especially, where he had to fly through this set of spikes bobbing up and down, which is then followed up by some tight gaps. The level also challenges the player with several moving obstacles, such as these wheels where you have to stay between its arms for several seconds, these square pattern orbs, and these spikes moving back and forth. After another wheel is the hardest part of the level, as it's difficult to get a consistent rhythm to both avoid these red orbs and straight fly through this narrow gap. Creator Creepy has made their best decorated level yet. It's a classic level that has a mesmerizing screen tear effect and neon blocks that really pop out in contrast to the dark space colors in the background. After ascending to the heavens as this deformed jetpack, you're suddenly thrown into platformer level. It has several features such as multi-activatable checkpoints. There are even functional saws that move back and forth and crumbling blocks that later respawn. However, this yellow orb of competency can be formidable to some players. Creator Creepy sent this level to a few streamers who mainly play classic levels, where you're able to double-click orbs. However, most of them couldn't initially figure out that you could simply click this yellow orb twice to reach the upper platform. The yellow orbs in this level infuriated one person so much they decided to rage quit. XanXL has become the first victor on the top 1 coin Feverish Dream Nightmare mode, which buffs the entire level. This extreme demon is based around slope boosting, where by moving downhill, jumping, and then swapping directions midair, you avoid losing momentum. Throughout Nightmare mode, you'll see that the various buffs are indicated by pitch black obstacles. They especially make the cube maze, where you slope boost in all sorts of directions, even more challenging. The hardest cubes for Zan was the robot with its additional spike, and SpongeBob, as he had to land perfectly between this upside down spike and this sideways spike. Later on, the repositioned spikes on this penguin gave him less leeway to ascend up its peak. However, according to Zan, all of Nightmare mode's hardest parts were all back to back, and at the tail end of the level. This rainbow tunnel requires an extremely late blue orb click to avoid an upcoming spike. After that is a consistency check, where all of the smaller obstacles on top of slopes have been swapped with normal spikes, that are now each paired with an additional mini spike. And the final pair's second spike is larger, and there's more of them to slope boost over. Even after reaching the credits, the nightmare was not over, as even the roof has more spikes that you need to slope boost between. Congratulations to Zan for persevering and beating this challenge even after dying to the credits.
Oh my god!
Artemka has verified digital ascension. He uses the strategy of buffering his next jump to increase his jump height. This level also uses its minimalist block design to form trees and clouds that you can climb through, the latter of which is the hardest part of the level. Legendary creator Zajoant has created yet another legendary level, Rockfall Rush, based on the puzzle game Boulder Dash, with his own original stages. In every single stage, you're required to collect gems before unlocking the gate to the next section. However, you'll have to be careful as you fly around and tunnel through dirt, as the boulders will start falling, and if you're not careful, will bury you alive. Later on, the puzzles add TNT that can break various obstacles, sentient saw blades that explode upon a boulder concussion, and crystal-topped hedgehogs that shatter into gems upon death. The first ever Lunar Jam hosted by Whippy37 has finally ended. It was a level contest where participants had 72 hours to make a platformer level once a theme was revealed. The theme this time was transport, and taking home the bronze medal is Orb Bypass by Chrono. It's a puzzle level where you use touchscreens to transport various orbs to different locations, allowing you to progress. The ball portal later on adds a fun twist, as you'll be able to skip orb locations by flipping your gravity. Taking home the silver medal for the Lunar Jam is Build Destroy by Its Turret and Its Cybercube. It's a puzzle Metroidvania where you find various blueprints you can transport throughout the level. Well inside the checkered zones, you can then use these blueprints to build various structures in each zone. However, you'll quickly realize that the only way to recover these blueprints is through said checkered zones. Luckily, there are these levers that you can pull that allow you to retrieve said pieces. As you recover more and more blueprints, your mobility options greatly increase. These include a field that can lower and increase your jump height, a 3-block LPs that you can use as a staircase after rotating it, and a pink orb trapped within a block, allowing you to reach greater heights than the single block blueprint you start out with. After exiting the maze, the ending room has a neat touch where you fill in the background with deformed Tetris pieces. After a clear on both I'm Happy for and High Gravity is Swag, Ungafo has cemented themselves as the best Jetpack player. Sleepover 2 by Farstove, an extreme minigame based on Five Nights at Freddy's series, was recently rated. Like the series it's based off of, you have to survive each night by performing various tasks to ward off the monsters out to get you. While the level only starts off with 4 monsters, both the amount and speed of them increase each night. So handling all 7 animatronics on night 4 is a nerve-wracking balancing act. Some of these include Umbroth, who randomly spawns as you're using the camera, testing how fast you can disengage, and Pumpkin, who challenges you with shutting off the lights every hour on the dot and nailing random quicktime events. Then around 3:15, Spider tries ensnaring you in its web, so you better catch it on camera several times until it decides to leave. However, the hardest enemy by far is Agony, as it slowly grows more restless the more time it's off camera. This is especially an issue as any time spent on calming it down diverts your attention away from the other enemies. Also, congrats to Dolph for verifying the level with 7 out of 20 coin, or a custom night where all 7 animatronics are on max difficulty. Check out Swap Block Land by the Army Ants. It's a fun level where the red and blue blocks quickly switch every 2 beats, making for some gameplay that keeps you constantly engaged. The robot part is especially neat as the pillars in the background sync to the beat. Taking home the gold medal in the Lunar Jam is Displacement by Tides GD and Splinter25. This level has a rather unique gimmick where several obstacles are paired with interactable foreground projections. However, whenever the level's camera scrolls, the projections move at different speed than the base level. Luckily, you can swap between both a moving and static camera, the latter of which also locks everything in place. This allows for some really unique gameplay later on as you figure out where to transport various orb projections, and a jetpack section where you block off deadly lasers using the foreground blocks. Artemka has verified the Capital, a gorgeous Celeste-style level that starts out with some mini-spike needle gameplay. Following that is a fairly tricky moving platform where Artemka moved left to avoid the spike trap, and then he jumped off of it with enough momentum to land in the upcoming gap. However, if he jumped too late or not at all, he would have been flung into these electric fields or dragged right into a saw. After this character appears for some reason is the next tricky part. These vertical corridors have unevenly spaced obstacles, making it really awkward to safely land on the right side of another mini-spike. Shortly after is this hallway, which feels especially claustrophobic as mini-spikes are scattered across the ceiling. After that is this UFO, the easier part of the checkpoint. However, you still have to backtrack through a third of the level and then squeeze through a couple of staircase-shaped gaps. Luckily for Artemka, he essentially fluked the entire UFO section of the first checkpoint. While the next checkpoint is easier, Artemka had to fly past 3 horizontal jetpack diagonals, and unlike the endings of other levels, the Capital keeps giving you places to choke, which is really likely to happen due to this monstrosity of a cube jump. Artemka also verified Dementia. Artemka has verified Dementia. G-Toast has verified the top 1 convolution. Make sure to check out Locomotive. Dementia is a double jump needle level with several checkpoints of hyper-condensed difficulty. Mobile player Kulitz has claimed a new hardest of Null alongside beating Arios this week, which means that it's now between her and Real1243 for becoming the next best mobile player. LunarLobster has started a series where they only beat a maximum of 1 room in top 10,000 cheese per day. They're currently on room 3. After running the calculations, this will take them 27 years and 145 days, and that's only if they don't skip a single day. Artemka has verified dementia. Voplat has verified boring uber, a cube-only neon green extreme that is presumably top 20. In the first checkpoint, he struggled with jumping into this one block gap, as he needed a running start, and both the sideways spike and sideways mini spike on the left wall make the timing fairly precise. At the next checkpoint, he also struggled with this tight turnaround drop into another cube cap. There's also 2 triple spikes at the end of the level. Welcome to Ion Fish's Blocktober Museum. I will be your tour guide, Ivory. This museum celebrates Mario Kirby's verification of the level. You'll find various exhibits, each with their own theme and style. However, Mario Kirby was restless as the Shadow Clone was chasing the legendary adventurer. Luckily, we've preserved her accounts. Exhibit A, Soap. It was a fairly slippery climb for our explorer. She then outran a spike wall, even while those showers were weighing her jumps down. Exhibit B, Pulse. This journey is not for the faint of heart, as the spikes pop in and out of sync with the exhibit's heartbeat. Exhibits C through I were a rough time for Mario Kirby. In Crayon, our adventurer dodged the surprise Crayon rockets. The sky has infinite jumps, but is also jam-packed with what are probably harsh acidic clouds. Rubber has bouncy obstacles, but luckily our explorer watched her step and then made sure to hurry up before the wax exhibit's candles evaporated. The needle exhibit is chock full of troll gameplay and wonky as heck hitboxes. The well-oiled machine has spikes constantly popping in and out of several rotating cogs. To wrap up the hardest parts for her, Sponge turned Mario Kirby Mini only when she was stepping on solid ground. To wrap up our Blocktober Museum tour, we found a note here that our traveler suffered 3 deaths at the final exhibit, Dream, through sheer nerves before completing the level. Also, these creatures are incredibly uncomfortable to look at. Check out 0000 by Tucario, a puzzle level where you have to crack the 4-digit codes of several rooms. For example, the first room has a code that's revealed by the number of corners each shape has. However, the rest of World 1 isn't as straightforward, and you'll truly have to make connections to what is displayed on screen. After that, World 2 tests how well you can think outside of the box by using mechanics available in every GD level. In World 3, your various interactions with what is or isn't there will guide you to the answer. Finally, make sure you have your volume turned up, as World 4 is full of audio cues. Also, check out Crystal. It's a survival challenge by Acrylic. The attacks definitely fit the theme, as starting out, she pops some crystal balls. This is then followed up by lasers and several glass shard projectiles. During the second phase, Crystal both attacks faster and starts hurling massive gemstones at you. After a meteor shower and crystals popping out of the ground in the background, Crystal pulls out an arsenal of weapons. The attention to detail is exceptional. The ammo that ejects out of the ranged weapons are literally diamonds, and during the final attacks, you can see cracks slowly forming on her. Just Potato Now has gotten another epic rated level on Just Partying Now, a rhythm-based minigame. However, it comes with a twist where you're actually a 3D cube stuck at the very end of the track. And instead of notes, spikes, giant walls, and even lampposts will come towards you. However, you're able to strafe around or jump over these obstacles that DJ Potato pulls out. In other news, Dashing has beaten Beautiful Chaos by Munix. After Dashing climbed the final tower, he beat the level, becoming the first person to ever reach 20,000 moons. LunarLobster's second test tournament has finished, and the top 8 matches were absolutely insane. After steamrolling LunarLobster, Shroomy made winners semifinals where he faced off against 2 Italian cats who was fresh off a win on Ibio. Shroomy started off on the back foot after a loss on Swap Block Land, and things seemed even more dire on their next game, as Italian Cats was consistently ahead in 50 slope trials, even reaching the credits first. All he had to do was one last jump. However, he failed to build up enough momentum on this slope. He then missed again. He then somehow collected the coin without activating the end trigger. After 12 missed jumps in total, Shroomy snatched the victory from the jaws of defeat, bringing the set to Game 3. This was on Melt, where the roles were seemingly flipped as Shroomy was always ahead and died to the last jump, a triple spike. However, after the previous game, he refused to let victory slip away from him and sent Italian Cats to the loser's bracket. On the opposite side of winner's top 8 was Eki and Panap, where Panap would take Game 1 on Proto Shift. Panap would then send Eki to the loser's bracket as he beat Broken Moon without a single death. Eki would then face off against Mini Masterman in losers semifinals, who got there through wins on Ibio and Bran, a top slope boosting player. Their first game was on Mountain Climb, and while it was consistently back and forth, with Mini taking a lead on the third to last checkpoint, it all came down to one jump. Eki caught up, boosted himself with a sideways red pad, and double jumped onto the left ledge, whereas Mini kept struggling to do so. Eki would then hold on to this lead for the rest of the level. Even though Mini Masterman put up a valiant effort on their second game of 72, it wasn't as close, as Eki would finish about a dozen rooms ahead. On the other side of losers semifinals was a rematch between 2 Italian Cats and Azurian, who after being sent to losers by the same opponent, clawed his way back with 3 set wins, including an upset against the Army Ants. However, it seemed like history would repeat itself, as Italian Cats beat XXV with a commanding lead. However, Azurian would not go down without a fight. Compared to his needle gameplay, Italian Cats' dash orb and jetpack control wasn't on point, so even though he was in the lead for most of Food for Thought, these mistakes really piled up, allowing Azurian to close the gap and overtake him at the final checkpoint. But then disaster struck at the final click of the level, where he failed to launch himself through a spike corridor with a red orb. So now it was Eki versus 2 Italian cats, where the latter decisively won on Flipside Skyline and the Dash Orb level Gloop Demon. Italian would then face off against the loser of Panap versus Shroomy. Panap would win first game on Dash deck. In game 2, Shroomy would start out with an early lead in Geometric Escape. After some last jump deaths in 2 back-to-back rooms, it was suddenly neck and neck again. It came down to the final 2 rooms. Shroomy was the first to wall jump his way through 2 crumbling block walls. However, in the next room, Shroomy really struggled with the 2 rows of saws and crumbling blocks in the final room, dying several times, whereas Panap only died once, sending Shroomy to a rematch against 2 Italian cats. After convincing wins on nerfed Radio Tower by Italian and infiltration by Shroomy, game 3 was on Little Castle. After Shroomy died a few times in the first room, Italian cats pulled ahead. And unlike last time, Italian wouldn't let Shroomy make a comeback, as he didn't struggle with the hardest click of the level, this blue orb ball click between 2 spikes, as much as the final room as 50 slope trials. Grand Finals was 2 Italian cats versus Panap, and since Panap hasn't lost yet, Italian would have to beat Panap twice to win the tournament. In the first set, none of the games were even close, as Italian would run away with a victory on Tumble Jungle, Panap would respond with a win on Hot Swap, and Italian would bring it to a bracket reset after 20 trials. Starting off in the end of it, 2 Italian cats would jump directly into a thorn of an enemy right before a checkpoint, which let Panap take the win. Game 2 was on dashing over it, and while in the lead, Italian missed this wall jump launch and following landing between 2 platforms, and subsequently fell down 5 floors below Panap. Worse yet, he fell again in a wall jump corridor. However, he clutched a landing on this 1-block column, which likely saved him from a loss, as Panap would fall just moments later to a lower screen. The final game of the tournament was on the game mode trials, and after Panap died on the last jump of the first checkpoint, Italian would keep his lead and win the November test tournament. Danuklin over the past months has beaten top level after top level, and along with mainly Artemka, brought Russia back as the best region at GD platformers, while Jitos has been on a semi-hiatus. And at the start of December, Danuklin beat the Abyss Deathless, and finally overtook Jitos as the best player. Which is what I would say if the day before, Jitos did not return and beat the hardest Jetpack level I Loved You and prevent that from happening. Ekloris claims first victor on Crystal River, an autoscroller inspired by dish rags. He struggled most in the pre-drop, specifically the spider click at 39%. The drop is pretty flashy and cool, and this cube jump at 66%, followed by this Jetpack click where you have to avoid hitting the black orbs, was particularly hard for Ekloris. He died at the ending section twice before clearing the level. Whizkid might just be inhuman at Geometry Dash. In addition to being one of the best spam players, they are also consistently cracked at platformers, with them recently beating Cave of the Scarlet Sky a top 20 level. While Whizkid is a top 15 player in Classic mode, he's arguably the best player overall, as he's currently top 75 on the platformer rank. In fact, he's the only person in the top 100 of both leaderboards. The J-Shadow has become the first creator to have 3 mythic demons after the release of Arcturin. This is essentially a full-on RPG, where you can play as a close-range melee user or fight from a range as a spellcaster. As you make your way through 6 dungeons, you'll battle through hordes of enemies. And to keep things fresh in between fights, there are some short platforming challenges and puzzles you have to solve to progress. Each dungeon also has 2 bosses, which unlike his previous work, rely more on animation cues such as the Skeleton King, raising his axe before swinging it down, rather than projectile indicators appearing across the screen. On top of that, each boss also increases in complexity. Compared to the first boss that only has a downward slam, the third boss now has homing tridents, a scattered volley of tridents, a laser beam meant to incinerate you, and explosive sea mines. Later on, the bosses have multiple phases, where they deal both faster and harder to dodge attacks. As for the dungeons, each of them focus on different mechanics, with Dungeon 3 introducing both water that you can swim in, and bubble orbs where you can choose to launch yourself either left, up, or right. Dungeon 4 using the grappling hook from J-Shadow's previous level Sheer Crag, and Dungeon 6 implementing cannons that fire explosions right at you. This final dungeon also remixes all of the previous dungeon's gimmicks into one final challenge. To add on to each dungeon's difficulty, starting from the second one, each dungeon has tankier enemies, with Dungeon 5 even having the only room with mega buffed enemies. Since the further you progress, the harder both bosses and dungeons are, after each dungeon is cleared, you unlock new weapons. In addition, you can fast travel to the market at the start of the level to purchase potions, upgrade your armor, and obtain said weapons from the blacksmith with all the gold you looted from your enemies. If 29 weapons for each class wasn't enough, you can also equip runes that grant passive abilities such as poison immunity, or ultimates such as healing yourself once you're on low health. This level is absolutely phenomenal and has so much going on. It even has extensive lore you can discover in the journals your character leaves behind, and a library containing almost a novel's worth of lore. Top Shell Maverick by Rejoy. It's centered around a mechanic commonly found in Mario Maker where you can throw a rideable shell at a wall, land on it, and then jump off. Later on, there's also these small Goombas you can bounce off of, and balloon Goombas you can move around by either hitting them with a shell or slamming them into bounce pads. Some of the later checkpoints are especially satisfying, as since the shell is faster than you, after jumping off of it, you'll propel yourself with a dash orb to land on it again. At the end of the level, you'll dodge the Goomba Towers and Fallen Goomba Angels Gary Goomba summons while pelting him with shells. Real1243 becoming the best mobile player after a completion of Rage. This breaks the 1-year-long streak in rivalry that Willy Silly and Wondered had for a spot at the top, but Nuh-uh by Chloe was verified by in-game moderator Gecko. The speedrun checkpoint start is straight up ridiculous, as you have to jump below these thorns and into a gravity portal that's slightly right of it, immediately execute a fast turnaround, which is then followed up by a late coyote jump into a triple click. Before the level eases up, you'll have to keep track of the orbs scrolling at different speeds. Shortly after, Gecko was launched sky high by some dash orbs. He then struggled with a couple of jumps between these thorn bushes due to their square hitboxes and the fact that he couldn't slow down. After some more speedrunning is a satisfying break where you can simply click the middle of these pink orbs to zoom between columns of poison ivy. Beyond that, Gecko only struggled with this ball quarter lineup and a dash orb release he had to time between a red pad and some toxic leaves. Casino of Envy by Sunko Moon. This is a sequel to the Flood Escape 2 inspired level to the King Silo by the same creator. This one takes on a colorful casino theme, with some standout parts being this vibrant arcade full of references to Eternal Towers of Hell, this intense vertical ascent, and the iconic codebreaker section at the end. To solve this code, you have to guess the randomly generated 3-digit number by guessing one number at a time. It's basically like Wordle, where a hit means you have a correct letter in a correct place, and a blow means you have a correct number in the wrong place. You technically have infinite guesses, but you only have 15 seconds to solve it before the lava comes flowing up at you. Extra shout out to Shroomy for being the first and only victor of this level so far, and go try it out yourself if you're interested in speedrun levels. Sanuklin on Claustrophobia Deathless. While you'd expect the precise final click and infamous coyote staircase to be brutal, especially in the context of a deathless run, Tanuklin mostly struggled with this jump, where he kept the momentum from the previous jump to squeeze through both an upside down spike and a mini spike. With this completion, after being blocked from it on several occasions over the last year, Tanuklin has finally claimed the title of the best platformer player on Platformer Rank. Huge congrats to him. Also check out 2EMU by Moonix. It's a unique twist on the low gravity fixed hitbox extremes that end in EMU, as you have a parasol that both slows down your fall and grants a short burst upwards when activated. It also has a deathless coin verified by Mario Kirby. Evitz has become the first worm victor of Live a Little. This mod is great, just look at him go. The day is December 22nd, 2024. Just hit the stage, the latter half of the year has been defined by Ayumi's stranglehold as the best player. The gap between him and Artemka, someone just outside the top 50, is astronomical in comparison. Later that day, Artemka, whose hardest intervallum wasn't even in the top 25, would crack into the top 50 for the first time with the completion of the needle precision level Eve, a top 15 at the time. But little did everybody know, within less than a year, Artemka would cement himself as the fastest improving player in platformer mode, ultimately ending up as the 20th best, as a top 10, no, that's not right, as the #1 player. Artemka would post his completion of Sedulous, finishing his unprecedented ascent to the top with a perfect score, meaning he completed the 10 hardest levels currently placed on Platformer Rank. Woolly Pig returns to the top 10 after 114,000 attempts on the hardest platformer level, Delightful Climb. Artemka's reign as the best player has come to an end on December 24th as Tanuklin beat the top 5 Sedulous. However, a new top 5 verified by Superkobster was going to throw a wrench in things. PLS, or Pastels, Lapels, and Seashells, is a very unique level, not only due to its collage of silhouettes in the background, but also the fact that it's only 10 seconds long. Despite the short length, it is a brutal challenge as there's a strict time limit, providing you with only a fifth of a second of leeway, which is especially problematic as there are several stutters where you have to release and quickly repress right. If that wasn't hard enough, this level also has several frame perfect and 2 frame jump windows. On December 26th, G-Toast would become PLS's first victor, and this likely would have put her back as the best player if it was placed already.
Oh my god, what?
However, for the first time since the very beginning of 2.2, 2 top 5 levels were verified in the exact same week. And on December 29th, Tanuklin verified Fake Sunrise, possibly reclaiming the title of best player. Some notably hard parts include these clicks near the start of the level where after jumping through a pair of spikes, you click a smaller than usual red orb, then press right so you can fit through another pair of spikes before finally landing. These back-to-back mini spike corner jumps past the halfway point, and using a fast turnaround near the tail end of the level to jump and fall through the same pair of horizontal spikes. Check out Cognitive Overload, an extreme where any one of 20 minigames can pop up at any time. This is especially tough as not only does each game have their own controls, but also a separate time limit. While you're keeping track of that, as a single miss sends you all the way back to the beginning, you'll also have to account for the same minigame spawning on different areas of the map. To further complicate matters, a couple of the games include Limbo Keys, Simon Says, and Straight Up Memory. Maddie has come back to level creating, verifying her new extreme Waking Up Again, which looks absolutely phenomenal. The use of the fading glass obstacles is especially a neat touch, as it prevents the deco from looking overly cluttered. Speaking of Maddie, another one of her levels, I'm Tired, was recently verified by Loles. It's another Null-inspired level where you collect the token item, this time swirls, to unlock later parts of the level. However, unlike its inspiration, there are several tendril obstacles sticking out of the ground. During verification, Loles had difficulty with this jump, where you use a fast turnaround to safely drop through a pair of mini spikes. However, he especially struggled with a series of jumps starting from the second third of the level that involve not only weaving through the tendril's leaves, which have fixed circular hitboxes, but also several more fast turnarounds. Check out J Shadow's legendary level, The Nucleus. It centers around a gimmick where after jumping, you can use your jetpack, no, not that one, to briefly boost yourself in the air before plummeting to the ground again. The level gradually eases you into learning how various dash orbs affect your jetpack boost and how to comfortably navigate tight spaces. After that are some purple buttons that grant you a temporary speed boost, which in turn forces you to act more quickly with your jetpack. This introduction then allows the level to not only incorporate stealth challenges, where you have to speedrun to the next wall to hide behind, but also tight corridors where you hover past the robots chasing you. With one last legendary, the J Shadow officially retires from level creation, so I highly recommend checking this level out. We now have channel membership, so if you want to help support us, you can become a lobster today. If you can't do that though, just subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you next week.